After having seen these gorgeous images, we have a few minutes to exchange where we stand today and where technology may lead 3D in the future. And we are very proud to be in a partnership, not only with creative people, but with a newly formed company. And we are showcasing at our IBC booth and also now here on the stage the first kind of joint developed piece of Alexa and Pace Cameron Group technology. Thanks.
There she is. Do you want to do the tour? you show the camera, we'll talk about how it goes together.
Yeah. What I liked most actually is that obviously you took delivery of one of our early cameras, you put it on production, we have seen great footage delivered on that, and then obviously you came back with dedicated requirements. And we sat together, and that is after a rather short period for you, probably too long a period of time, what we have achieved. And to say it is partly an ARRI design, but to make it work, it will require the engineering capabilities, obviously, of the WinSpace Group. When we talked about how important is it to have everything together, but to have it not cabled to any sort, I remember quite well, because that was something that I had a fear of. You say, well, there is no, you can't run cable with a rig. But you say, well, you probably can get along with one cable, but it needs to be one. And that is where I thought, well, that's an engineering task we can address. And I think here is the junction box where everything leads in. And then obviously it's your task to feed it to processing, but also to feed back to do your control of the rig, and obviously to bring monitoring signals back.
Yeah, because we always approach this as a production environment. I think a lot of people get stuck with just, oh, here's a component, here's a lens, here's some motors, and it's a 3D rig, and that's never been our part of our approach to it. An integrated approach is certainly our direction in production. Working together with ARRI, we were able to really reduce the Medusa effect, if you will, of systems that require a tremendous amount of additional add-on boxes or additional wiring. So we're managing all the signals of the Alexa cameras. We're managing return signals that might be coming back from a production environment. We have a very streamlined system for rolling into production for shooting with a 3D camera. And I think that the collaboration was the next evolution for us, because we're working together as a team. We're identifying areas that they can service with their resources, or we can service with ours, but in the end we're going to service it. And this is a product of that working together.
It was great right from the first day when we first met. ARRI was already well down the path on the Alexa M design, just the separable sensor head, but they were very open to our input, and they actually you guys completely re-engineered the outer form factor, the casing, where the fans were placed, how the cooling was done. I think in the very initial meeting, because I think we all think like engineers. So after we got past the happy horseshit and the first handshakes and chit-chatting for 5 minutes, it was boom. Let's drill down to details. We weren't even under a deal at that point. We eventually put it under a proper joint development deal, but we immediately just started thinking like engineers. How do we solve this problem? How do we optimize this camera for 3D application? Because obviously, although everybody wants a small, lightweight camera for film production, it's really absolutely critical to our business in 3D to have something that's very small, because obviously the rig becomes a multiple of the camera and lens combo times 2, and then the rig added on to that. And from the very first meeting and then on through the whole technical development last year and throughout this year, we just found it to be a great working collaboration. ARRI were very responsive to the things that we were requesting, and we were able to design the rig itself in parallel with that, so that we put some of our cabling internal. We were able to consolidate the cabling as they were able to consolidate the outputs and so on. And the result is this. I mean, we could pull it off here and show it kind of handheld if we wanted to show how. You want to break it off, Vince?
Yeah.
This is where we drop it, break
Yeah,
the only
exactly.
one in existence.
And you better.
I'll take it on the right side.
Okay, there you go. I don't know this ad, so sorry, guys.
Yeah, here we go. There we go. So this is very, very similar in weight to the 2/3 inch cameras that we were using on Avatar, and it feels very, very natural and easy to use. It's very straightforward. You can walk with this. You could run with it. You know, I certainly look forward to shooting with this, and this is a major breakthrough, obviously, for the Alexa technology. As for anyone here, and I'm sure many of you have worked with the Alexa, the non-Alexa M version is quite a bit larger camera. You couldn't be doing this with that camera. This is very easy to work with, very well balanced. Good for hand holding. It'll be good for Steadicam, and of course it's configurable to any type of rig, including side-by-side applications. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
like need some hand grips. You know, I don't think you'd want to hold on to it this way.
I didn't know you were going to pick it up. Okay.
Of course I'm going to pick it up.
Yeah.
If we probably talk briefly about the ingredients of the camera as it is, and maybe you can explain when you first looked at 3D images from the Alexa, obviously the Alexa we started, what was the most different perception to cameras you used before? Because you have started 3D several years ago when the technology obviously was not as far as it is today.
We've put all the cameras that are out there through their paces in 3D rigs one way or another. And I think the thing that struck us about the Alexa, maybe in addition to the other things I was mentioning, the beauty of the color space, the dynamic range, which is very film-like at 14 stops, was really the performance of the camera in terms of the identical signal output from the two separate cameras. This is so critical because when you're shooting 3D, you've got to be generating two images that are identical in every way, from the calibration of the lenses through to the actual signal coming out, and identical in every way except for the parallax. Only the parallax should be what's different. So when we were in the DI with the Alexa images from Cirque and some of the other stuff that we've been shooting, you could take those two waveforms from the left and right eye and superimpose them, and they are identical. The black pedestal, the black values, the gamma, everything is absolutely identical, and that makes it a dream. Because sure, you can fix images later in the DI, but when you're working with 3D in real time, you want to be able to see your shot, and a difference in the black values, for example, gives you a really strange sense of a mismatch. It almost makes you sick to your stomach. So dealing with cameras that are so nicely matched, I think was really good. We just knew we were working with really precision cameras.
So probably for the ones who are not aware, it doesn't come by coincidence. So we paid a lot of attention to make the cameras durable, to make the cameras work at the same performance in different temperature level, and that's the reason why obviously over time, but over different cameras, the consistency is there. So we control the sensor at the same temperature, we calibrate them all the same way, and as Mark was mentioning in his presentation, prior to shipment, we have a burn-in phase, we shake it, so we want to have the most robust, dependable, and lasting device, and obviously 3D can exploit that.
Yeah, and all of the active cooling that you had in the larger Alexa, you guys had to sort of rack your brains for how to maintain exactly the same standards in the cooling system that you had, which kept the stability at the sensor that was so important. But it's all in this little box. That's what, about a third of the size, I think, and probably less than a third of the weight. Yeah.
And I definitely I feel that the camera, surprisingly enough, we're not just reaching, you know, the bare minimum bar with the camera. The foundation of this, for me, is very similar to film. It's a type of camera that if you want to push it, that performance characteristic that's working so well for you in the foundational element allows you to take it further for projects that challenge it. And there's instances in the Cirque film where it was really comforting to me that we could push it a stop, we could penetrate into the image more without shaking that digital image up at all.
No,
you know,
we
the
pushed it a
foundation
couple
was
of
so
stops.
solid, you almost felt like, well, should I just stay at 1600 and shoot the whole thing? Because the performance characteristics are, I think, so fundamentally sound. And I think that's what we've seen about the camera the most. The transition from the blacks to the whites are so smooth and really balanced that you actually feel like you're working with a film-based type approach.